This is Sonya from TranscribeRight. Claire and I are excited to be sharing the recording from our very first webinar. We covered a lot of topics, and I'll include a list of topics in the information section below the video. We finished the presentation with an animated Q&A session, and our participants brought along some really good questions for us to answer. This is our first attempt at hosting a webinar, and Claire and I can see we do have a little bit of practicing to do to fine-tune things. Please feel free to leave any comments, tips or tricks that you might have that will help us improve. And if you have any questions that remain unanswered, keep an eye out. We're hosting more webinars and we'd love to have you come along and shoot us some questions. But until the next web event, please enjoy our offering.
So, hello everybody and welcome. Looks like we're ready to go, and just for housekeeping purposes, as I've said, everybody's mics are off. Please feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions. So for those of you who have never heard of us before, I'm Sonya, and manning the chat post is my business partner Claire. We've been involved in the transcription industry since the early 2000s, first as transcribers subcontracted to a transcription company, then as editors and administrators for the same transcription company to today, where we formed our own transcription business called Team Transcripts. We created TranscribeRight in response to the need we saw in our own business for trained transcribers. So I'll talk a little bit more about us later on. What is audio transcription? In its most basic form, audio transcription is the process of creating a written or typed document that records words spoken in real time or captured on an audio recording device. These days, with an audio recording device available in every smartphone, everything has been recorded, from the things that you might traditionally have thought of when you heard about audio transcription, like single voice dictation and medical notes, to telephone meetings, video conferences and interviews. Every television show, documentary and movie you have watched has had its audio transcribed at several points, both pre and post-production. The captions you see on your television were transcribed by a person in most instances, and the list goes on. Millions of recordings are made every day, and most of those recordings will need to be transcribed. And since COVID and the need to conduct more of our interactions online, even more audio is being transcribed. So how does an audio recording get turned into a transcript? Well, a lot of single voice correspondence type recordings are prepared by what's commonly referred to as in-house. So that means by the business who uses in-house staff to transcribe their correspondence audio and create their documents. More and more businesses are outsourcing their more complex and time-consuming transcription needs to a third-party provider. These third-party transcription services can be as small as a single person who has set up a business name and advertise their transcription services to attract a couple of clients, to large companies who process hundreds of hours of audio a week using a team of subcontracted work-from-home transcribers. Whether it's a sole operator or a company, the process of turning an audio recording into a transcript is the same. The client sends the audio file to the third-party service they have contracted to and provides instructions on what sort of a transcript they require. The third-party service either prepares in-house if they are a sole operator or subcontracts out the audio file to one of their transcribers. The transcriber will load the audio file into an audio player app, put their headphones on, and as the audio file plays, they will type what they hear in a document, which will become the transcript. But here's a brief overview of what a transcription company would be like to work for. So there are a lot of transcription companies of varying sizes around the world, and some of them you've probably heard of, like Rev, and lots that you likely haven't heard of, like Pacific Transcripts in Australia, Production Transcripts in the US, Acuro in the UK, and Canadian Transcription Services in Canada. A quick Google search will show you just how many transcription companies there are out there. Like all industries, some companies are better than others, and your experience of subcontracting to them will vary from company to company with regards to the systems you will be using, the style guide you will work with, the rates they pay, and the feedback and the help they offer. Some companies are hands-on and provide support and feedback to their transcribers, while other companies have more of a churn mentality, where they provide little to no feedback to help their transcribers improve and have a revolving door of transcribers coming and going. And when it comes to the rates you can expect to be paid as a transcriber for these companies, it is generally that the ones who communicate and treat their transcribers well pay better rates, while the companies that have a churn model pay what we consider appalling rates. If there's one thing we would want you to take away from today, it's know your worth and understand that a transcription company is nothing without its transcribers. So please do not work for churn companies. Now, here's a question we get asked all the time. So, are AI transcription services going to make you obsolete? Well, audio transcription apps like Dragon, Naturally Speaking, which has been around since 1997, have come a long way, but are still light years away from being able to replicate the human ear and mind. And I say mind because as a transcriber, you will need to make judgment calls about all sorts of things that are going on in the audio files you transcribe and have the flexibility to adapt to a myriad of different requirements for templates, notations, right down to are you transcribing clean, verbatim, or somewhere in between. These are things that no AI software can do. There is currently no AI service that can offer a product that does not require a full go-to-woe edit to fix up the software's transcription errors. And that might not sound like a big deal. Surely you've saved yourself a heap of time getting a software app to transcribe your audio, and reading it through to fix any errors won't take long at all. Now, anybody who's done any editing will know that that's just not true. To do a full edit on a transcript can take longer than it would have taken for a human to transcribe it and get it right the first time. And that doesn't take into account the time you'll need to spend editing the transcript to get it into the template format your client requires. That means you'll be spending more time editing than you would have typing, and you're not going to make money that way. There also isn't any AI software available that can cope with accents, background noise, differentiating between clean and verbatim transcripts, or any of the 101 other things that comes up when transcribing audio. And AI definitely isn't able to create a transcript that suits a client's specific needs. Current AI audio transcription apps would not produce a usable transcript for any of the clients we work with in our transcription business. Now, that's not to say that that won't change at some point in the future, but it's unlikely to change in the foreseeable future. And don't get me started with the confidential issues associated with AI transcription services. So rest assured, the amount of audio that needs transcribing is increasing, and AI transcription services are a very, very long way from being able to replace a human being for most of this work. So back to Claire and I. You can read all about us in our ebook, and you'll also find out lots more about us on the TranscribeRight website. As previously mentioned, Claire and I come from a background where we have worked as transcribers, and we took a unique perspective into creating our transcription business. Team Transcripts was created with a business model designed to give our transcription team room to grow. We most definitely understand that the success of our business hinges on the abilities of our transcription team. And to have a team that is at the top of their game means making an effort to nurture and support their growth. If you're wondering what a transcription business has to do with TranscribeRight, well, one thing led to another. When we started Team Transcripts, we had no idea how successful it would become. And only 6 months into startup, we had grown to a point where we already had everybody we knew on the team, and we were running out of hands. We advertised for transcribers and the resumes came pouring in, but for every 10 people we've trialed, we'd be lucky if one of them had the skills we needed to join the team. Claire and I brainstormed, what could we do? Our first solution to this problem was to pick out the applicants who showed the most potential and then attempt to train them on the job. And we very quickly realised this was not going to be a sustainable method. We brainstormed again. What we needed was a resource that delivered step-by-step training to provide people with the skills we need to see in a transcriber. When we searched, we found there were no transcription courses on the market that offered this training. Claire and I decided the solution would be that we would create the course, and so TranscribeRight was born. We spent 12 months researching and writing the modules and recording audio files, creating exercises and transcribing the answer keys. And we've put everything we know about this industry into the course. We've created lessons to teach you all the skills you will need to work and be successful as a transcriber. Plus, we've included everything we have learnt about creating and running your very own transcription business. The success of our course can be seen in the number of people who started as students at TranscribeRight and are now subcontracted transcribers at Team Transcripts. And at this point in time, 1/3 of our subcontracted team is made up of TranscribeRight alumni, students who worked through our course and then responded to a call to arms from Team Transcripts. And that number just keeps on increasing. But Team Transcripts isn't the only transcription company that is employing our TranscribeRight alumni. Our alumni have gone on to subcontract to numerous transcription companies around the world and even have used the course to springboard into full-time employee transcription roles. So, why is training necessary? Now, I mentioned earlier that when we first started Team Transcripts and needed extra hands on our subcontractor team, we sought applications from various forums, but found that we were lucky if 1 in 10 of the applicants had the skills they needed to work on our team. There are lots of people who think they are transcribers, and the common belief is that all you need is a PC and a pair of ears. And this couldn't be further from the truth. As a transcriber, you will need a minimum of a PC, internet access, a pair of over-the-ear headphones to go with your pair of ears, Microsoft Word, an audio player app, and a foot pedal. But more than this hardware and software, you will need certain skills, including a good ear or the ability to hear what is being said, the ability to read and follow instructions, including job instructions as well as style guides, basic Microsoft Word skills so you are able to use and manipulate templates, reasoning and decision-making skills so you can make appropriate judgment calls about your transcripts, search engine skills so that you can Google and find difficult to spell words, spelling and grammar skills. And if you want to run your own transcription business, you will need to know how to set up basic bookkeeping, systems, style guides and confidentiality agreements, terms and charges letters, and most importantly, how to price right. Crucially, you will need to have drive and self-determination. Now, at TranscribeRight, we can't teach you drive and self-determination, but our course is designed to help you learn most of the other skills and encourages your development of the rest. And yes, TranscribeRight is designed to even help you improve your ability to hear what is being said with what we call ear training by exposing you to as many different accents and audio situations as we possibly could. We're continually seeking to improve the course and provide new content, including audio files with accents we don't currently have, which means TranscribeRight is not a static course, and the content changes as technology and changes and in response to our students' feedback to us. And our students have lifetime access to the course and will always have access to these updates. So can you tell that Claire and I are passionate about TranscribeRight and our students? Now back to the question of why you should seriously consider training. The number one reason you should do a training course if you would like to be a successful, self-sufficient transcriber is because you will only get one chance. When you apply to join a transcription team or you are seeking to secure your first client, you will only get one chance to do it right and secure that job or win that client. You will only get one chance to pass the transcription test. You will only get one chance to prove your worth to a potential client. TranscribeRight is designed to set you up for success. Claire, do we have any questions to look at this time?
I've been noting down a few here, which I think we can deal with at the end when we just throw it open. So I'm going to give Sonya a little bit of a rest now and tell you about why we think training matters, how it saves you money in the long run, and the kinds of things you want to be looking for in a course. As Sonya mentioned earlier, you only get one chance to make a first impression, whether it be on a typing test with a transcription company or a potential client. You want to have all of your boxes ticked and ready to go. If you want to run your own transcription business, it's absolutely vital that you know exactly what you're going to charge. Have your T&C letter ready to go. It's also vital to understand what a subcontractor actually is and isn't, and that's something that we see abused on a regular basis. You need to have your style guides and terminology documents set up and have your basic bookkeeping and invoicing ready to go. Being set for success means that your voice will ring with confidence when you finally get that phone call. You'll know exactly what you're going to say to your client. You'll be able to explain your charges, and you'll be able to explain why you might be more expensive than a cheaper company, but this is your point of difference. Our course provides you with all of this information, as well as getting your home office set up, basic bookkeeping, invoicing, client confidentiality, flexing your Google Foo, templates and style guides, T&C letters, subcontractor agreements, thinking outside the box, another important skill, advanced word skills, your health and wellness in what is basically a very sedentary job, and using things like NVivo software and word styles. Good training should mean that you've experienced everything that you like to come across as much as possible when you're working in the industry. Multi-voice files, accents, harder audio. If you're only used to single voice dictation and you want to expand, get training on intermediate and advanced and train your ears. You don't want to miss out on a client because you've got 5 hours of multi-voice interviews that they want transcribing and you just can't do it because you don't have the skills. Like anything, you learn and grow by constant training, learning and improving. Transcription is no different. Training is essential. It's not just typing at home, it requires numerous skills. If you take on work and don't have the skills, you're unlikely to get repeat work. Our transcription business has grown by word of mouth because we are professional and we know what we're doing. We want the same success for you, and we want you to be able to wow your clients. If you don't want to be trapped doing churn work at a lower rate and want to access those transcription companies or clients that value you and have blue chip clients who want top quality transcripts, then it's honestly worth investing in yourself and getting the correct skill sets. High-end clients demand high-end transcripts. Anyway, enough of me. Let's open to any questions. And I have got a few. Somebody touched on AI, Sonya, again, and say, you know, they've seen on our forum, Transcription Central, that there are people asking to be beta testers for AI training and AI thing, and they're just saying, you know, is it really true that it's not likely to take over our jobs? Are you happy to answer that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good if there's something that does worry you, that you do take some time to Google and look into it and look at what's actually out there at the moment. That's something that Claire and I are constantly doing as well. We've tried Dragon Naturally Speaking in its various versions, and at this point in time, it cannot transcribe more than one voice. So it's a good thing if you're a doctor in a medical office, but for anybody that's got more than one voice that needs transcribing, it's not going to cut it for you. We've also signed up for some of the online services where you upload a file and it runs it through software and provides you with a transcript. And again, it's limited, and it actually says to you when you're uploading the audio file, be aware that if there are accents, background noises, more than two voices, the quality of the transcript may vary. And definitely the quality of the transcript we got back from the audio we uploaded was not good. It was going to take a lot of work to massage into shape.
Yeah, I think.
And the other thing, sorry, Claire.
No, I was going to say you just need to look at the you know, the, what do you call them, the things on the television, the subtitles. you know, often they don't make any sense at all. And you think,
Yep.
we've been asked, where can you buy a foot pedal?
Okay, well, it depends which foot pedal you want. Definitely Amazon will get you in the right direction. If you've already got some information about the foot pedal that you want to use, just jump onto Amazon and you can search and find one there. If you're on a Mac, I still do recommend that you have a look at the V pedal. And you can just search V-pedal and go directly to their website. The price of their pedal hasn't changed for as long as I've been transcribing, I think. So it's around about US $75. And I used to love using it with QuickTime Player on Mac, but something happened in one of the operating system upgrades on Mac, and now they're not very friendly together. But the V pedal is still fantastic to use with TranscribeRight and any app that has hotkeys. You can program the V pedal to control the hotkeys for any app you've got. So iTunes, anything like that. That's for me on a Mac. Claire has a different preference in her pedal.
Yeah, I use a PC and I use TranscribeRight, and I have an Infinity pedal, and I got mine from NCH. If you Google NCH, they are recommended by TranscribeRight, and I think the price is not dissimilar. And I've literally had mine since 2003. Let's touch wood, it doesn't blow up now. I've just said that, but it's. I dread to think how many hours and hours and hours and hours it's done. But it's still working absolutely fine. I think you can use them. My daughter used to do some transcribing for us, and she had an Infinity pedal, and she used a Mac laptop. So I think somebody's just said, what is Google Foo? I might answer that because it's a Sonyaism. Well, at least I think it is. I've never heard anybody else use it. And when we talk about flexing your Google Foo, one of the key things of being a good transcriber is, again, getting a really good quality transcript back to your clients. And so it's the ability to quickly find those words. And we've literally done everything from mining companies to we actually did some work where people were talking about the Hadron Collider in Switzerland, and you really need to be able to find really specific vocabulary and do it quickly and go, yep, that's it, awesome. And that's why we also created our terminology document, so that for any client and any matter that the client's working on, the team are working on a live paper document, so that, as somebody's going through and they find something, they put it on that document, and then the whole team working on that have got access to it. So we're all working on it, but you're not having to keep reinventing the wheel and look up something, because you can see, oh yeah, there's that spelling there. Another question, what was your background, Sonya?
Oh, my background. Okay, so I actually started life as a legal secretary. So I worked for 15 years as a legal secretary, working with single voice audio for the one lawyer. And I then took a hiatus and had a baby. And one day I was working and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I wonder what my little daughter's doing. I'm not with her and I keep missing out on all this stuff. And I tried to negotiate my hours with my employer and get them reduced down so I could actually spend more time with my daughter. And they were not flexible. And I thought, there's got to be something better than this. Google search led me to virtual, what were we called?
Virtual assistants.
Virtual assistants. And it led me to a forum that had job postings on it, and a transcription job came up with a small Australian company. I applied for it and I got on their team, and within 6 months the small Australian company had asked me to start working as administrator for them, and I did that work with her, and over the next 10 years watched her grow into a large Australian transcription company. That changed hands a few times. In their third ownership, where at this point Claire and I had known each other for quite a large number of years, we put our heads together and said, hey, maybe we don't need to work for this big company anymore that keeps changing hands. Maybe we can join forces, and we did. Amazing things have happened since then. So that's my background. So Helen, when you ask about the different audio file formats, do you mean like whether it's MP3 or M4A?
Yes.
Okay, so it depends. Just like we've got PCs and we've got Macs, we've also got all the different companies out there like Sony Olympus players. They like to record all their stuff in DSS, which is super compressed. So the file formats are formats that are created by the large software companies, like Microsoft has its WMA, WMVs, the audio and video files. Mac likes to do M4A and M3A and that sort of format. They used to be ASS files, I think. But it's just the company that, when they first started doing it, it really was like Sony games and Xbox games, and never the twain shall meet. So you had a lot of difficulty at the start when Claire and I began in this business, where if I was on a Mac, there were just files I couldn't transcribe. I had to get really complicated software to convert them into something friendly, because it would be a Microsoft file, and Microsoft and Mac were like, these days now we actually have lots of wonderful software like NCH. TranscribeRight also have capacity to convert audio files into a friendly format. A lot of the different formats will also offer different levels of compression. So like I said, DSS files are usually really heavily compressed, and we do actually ask our clients if they are able to change their setting on their recording device to be MP3 or anything other than DSS. We recommend that they do that. Because you don't need that compression in this point in time. We've got plenty of bandwidth to get our files up. So we ask people, don't compress the file. So does that answer that enough? And then with it, you can get transcripts. Sometimes you'll get something that's just so easy to do and quick. You'll have clear audio. You'll have people that don't have a lot of speech mannerisms, that they can just say what they want to say. And those files you'll fly through, especially if it's a clean transcript and your client doesn't require you to capture.
Like, kind of.
Yeah. You don't have to capture all the nuances. You'll fly through that transcript, and then you've got another audio file where they've decided the best location to record the interview is the pub, and there's a band on one side and there's people at the bar getting beers on the other, and those files can be excruciating and can take you just so many more hours to transcribe, which is why it's really important that you, if you're working for yourself and finding your own clients, you know how to get your rates set up to reimburse you for the time that it takes to do that complicated file versus that easy file.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm falling down.
Okay. Well, certainly how we operate is that when the client signs our T&C letter, we give them a time. So, you know, it will be an urgent turnaround time or 24 to 48 hours, or the longest we do is 3 days, really, because some transcription companies will do cheaper transcripts at, you know, for 2 weeks, a 2 week turnaround time. But in fact, how does that help the transcriber? Because it's going to take them the same amount of time to transcribe that file anyway. So all it's doing, it's meaning that you're just going to get paid less, really. So we're not interested in that. That's a good one for churn companies. So when we send out our T&C letter, we have that timing for starters, and then we also have rates that increase depending on number of voices, background noise and audio quality, so that you have room for maneuver. So when that audio that was super clear, they told you, arrives on your desk, and as Sonya said, it's been, you know, well, we actually had and there is some in the course actually, because it was just so horrendous. I said to Sonya, we really need to do that. So at some point, if you do the course, you'll come across Nightmare on Transcription Street, and we had a whole load of files that were recorded on beanbags, focus groups on beanbags, and so you can imagine what that was like, with everybody shuffling around on these things with all the other noises in a focus group, like people pouring water, tea, food coming in. And so it just means that you've got some wiggle room, so that when, you know, the clear file that they said was coming to you is actually 10 people on beanbags, you can say, well, actually the audio quality wasn't quite said, so that's why this rate has been charged. You're not having to go back to them to say, oh, actually that audio is awful, I'm going to have to charge you more. You've already covered that. You don't need to have that conversation. It's just there. They've signed it. And it just gives you wiggle room. And it's things like that that really saves you money in the long run, because it just means that you've covered all your bases, or as many as you possibly can. So Helen is saying that
Transcription Street is in the advanced module.
Yeah.
That's you know, it's your tasty reward for travelling so far.
Thank you.
That's right. Well, we've tried to cover, you know, I think we've got 15 different accents across the 3 modules. And we've got an interpreter-led interview, because that was a work we did a lot of at one point. And we used to love that, because obviously you don't transcribe the interpreter. So you'd have the person saying, you know, Mr. Jones, you know, could you tell us, you know, where you were on Thursday night? And so the interpreter would say that in whatever language, and then the person would be sort of answering a long answer, and then, you know, you're sort of sitting there going, yes, I'm getting paid for this, and then the interpreter would turn around and say, at home, and you go, oh, you beauty, at home. and so we used to call it money for jam, really, because you were still being paid for the length of the audio file, but in fact the interpreter takes up quite a lot of that time. But again, it's knowing how to notate that in transcripts and things like that. So
when we first started working for the same company, Claire and I, we were paid in words.
Oh yeah, per line.
Yeah. And so I had to spend a lot of time in the background when I first started working with them, doing the admin, going through all the transcripts and doing the word count and calculating how many sentences it was. And it was a terrible way to have to do it, because in some ways, I mean, sometimes it again was money for jam, but if you've got somebody that speaks at an incredible rate of words, the transcript was going to take you longer, maybe you may get paid better for it, but if they were really slow, you'd be sitting there for 60 minutes of audio while they thought about the answer, and you'd be like, no, I'll make no money, talk. It was much nicer when we went to rates per audio minute.
Yeah.
Which is Helen, I think Claire and I have different answers for this one about background noise. What I do is I have used TranscribeRight. It's got a couple of, what do you call them, little features in it where you can try and clean the audio up, clean out the background and boost the foreground. What I have found is that for me, when I run those processes in TranscribeRight, a lot of times the audio then gets distorted and I actually struggle more. My preference is I've been through and checked out so many different software apps that play the audio. So I go on the other end of the scale. Rather than cleaning it up, I try and find software that plays it clearer for me, because I do have a pretty good ear. So if I can get it clear enough, I'm really good at focusing just on the words and ignoring all the other garbage that's going on. So that's what works best for me, which is why I really like using QuickTime Player, because the quality of the audio being played through that app is so much clearer to my ear than what I hear when I use TranscribeRight.
Yeah.
But Claire may...
I've actually started doing that too, if it's particularly bad. But my first point of call would be to go and take down the background noise. But sometimes, as Sonya said, that doesn't actually really make it any clearer. But actually, after Sonya told me about that with QuickTime, if it's particularly bad, I will go across and have a little listen, or even when you're editing. So if you're more comfortable typing in TranscribeRight because it gives you the timestamp function, then maybe when you're editing, go back and listen to it through QuickTime, and it might just help you pick up when you go back and check your timestamps. I'm just asked, there was one more question. what kind of work does TTT do? Oh, hang on, sorry, before we finish that, Helen, is it free QuickTime, Sonya?
It is. Yes, but there is a free version and there's a pro version. Well, maybe you don't have to pay for the pro version anymore. I've had it for so long. But yes, there is a free version of QuickTime Player. It's an Apple product, but it works on both platforms, both operating platforms, PC and Mac. And so you can just go to the Apple site and download it. It's a good app. It's the audio playback. Quite good. I think we may have a couple of people with us today that maybe use it the same way we do for editing.
Yeah, I think Kim, our admin assistant, does for sure. She's also a Mac user, but she likes to use QuickTime to listen back. So what kind of work does TTT do?
Sorry, Claire.
Sorry, what kind of work does TTT do?
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate. We've ended up creating a beautiful niche for ourselves, and it just happened by accident. We secured our first client who is involved in workplace investigations and looking at workplace cultures. And they're a large firm here in Australia. They're based in Sydney and Melbourne. And from there, it just seemed that we attracted more clients that were in that space, that were doing investigations of some description. And through word of mouth, our first client referred us on to some other clients. We have ended up with a very large client base from the Victorian Ombudsman right through to local fisheries here in Cairns, transcribing investigation audio. So from human resources points of view, where we've got human resource companies that are investigating misconduct, right up to the Victorian Ombudsman. So it's all investigation interview. 90% of it is intelligent verbatim.
Yeah.
And then we've got about 10% that's clean, and we do have a couple of little clients on the side that do medical investigations, and they're like clean transcripts, so that's nice for us. But yes, we've got this lovely niche where we do lots of investigation work.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, and yeah. I think one of the joys of this work for us is that you literally never know what you're going to be looking at the following day. I mean, it could be, sometimes it is quite distressing. The people that are interviewing might have been bullied and they're very distressed, and you have to sometimes just take a deep breath and go, well, they're dealing with this. It was good that this is, coming to the fore, but it's not always easy. But it is fascinating because the different industries that we have covered and the things that we've learned, it's a job that just stretches you daily, I feel. So yeah. Any more questions before we wrap up? I think we've pretty much, I'm just checking the chat here. No, I think we're pretty much done. Please email us if you would like us to cover anything we'd like to do webinars every now and then. This one's been, just by its nature, quite broad. But if you would like us to cover things in more detail or specific topics or whatever, please let us know, and then we'll try and work that into the next time that we do a webinar, or we can just email you if it's something quick and easy. So it's been lovely chatting with you today. Forgive us for the little stuff ups that we've made as we've gone along, but thank you so much for tuning in.
And if just before you leave, if you wouldn't mind leaving us some feedback, things that you liked and things that we could do better, which is probably a lot of things, but we'll get better at it, I promise. This is our first run at it. We'll get more confidence.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Okay, well, we will see you soon, hopefully. Thanks so much for tuning in.